Hello, welcome back to the PoddiMouths podcast. I am Peyton Cubic, and this is where my dad and his friend John talk about random stuff in life or the things they found on the internet. I hope you enjoy listening to this episode as much as I did. Here they are now.
It's Coffee Talk. PoddiMouths Coffee Talk.
Welcome to Coffee Talk.
Coffee. I don't know. You might ding that one because it might be copyrighted.
Coffee Talk?
Coffee Talk.
Okay.
Dana,
like
isn't
that'll
it Dana?
save us.
No,
Well,
Dana
you know what?
Carvey is
We
church
dinged
lady.
it. We dinged it for Pete's sake.
That's right. Dana Carvey is church lady, but isn't Mike Myers Coffee Talk?
Probably.
It's a
but
Saturday
that would
Night
be-
Live skit, no matter what it is.
Okay, Coffee Talk. Well, speaking of which, we're having coffee.
Coffee.
This is Nick Freitas, who's a guy I follow.
My
And
wife is
that's
hotter than my coffee.
And this was my gift to myself for Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
It was kind of nice
you know
to
what?
my wife, and
Yeah,
I
That's
wrapped
a
it,
good-
and she opened it, and she's like, "It's for me." I said, "So the perfect Valentine's Day gift."
nice.
Yes.
So
He's a really thoughtful guy.
we are sitting, and John, are you drinking caffeinated or decaffeinated coffee?
Always caffeinated.
Always caffeinated. How can
Yeah.
you do that and sleep?
I can't. And I can't sleep whether I drink it or not, so it doesn't really matter.
There you go. I guess,
but
yeah.
Well, I guess it's the coffee. No, it's just you can't really sleep. You're kind of
Right. Did you see my light change because my heater went off?
Oh,
It was fun.
Oh, heater is that? It
I
must
have a
be
little
chilly.
space heater. It
Must
is
be
a
chilly
little
there.
bit chilly for now. It's going to warm up today. It's going to be in the 60s today, but
Wow.
it is chilly this morning,
Yep.
which is not actually morning anymore because it's 11:50 a.m. when we're
Hmm.
recording this. But
Yes.
I'm not warm right now, but I actually turn on the heater because the dogs calm down. They're literally laying here. Let me send you a picture.
Yes.
I'll just-
We're gonna need to see the puppies.
yeah. So here are my dogs with their face right in the heater.
Oh,
See that?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how they
That's so
lay up
cute.
in my office. But that's how I calm them. So because
Yeah.
no one else is. Peyton's home, but she's in the shower right now. Shh, don't tell anyone. She hates me for admitting that, but we
But
just
she
got
showers.
back from. Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
No, we just got back from horseback riding lessons.
Oh yeah.
So she's washing the horse off of her.
So I've never asked you.
Yeah.
I know, and I know she's been riding for some time. Are you a horse rider? I mean, have you been a horseback rider?
I was when I was a kid, sort of.
Yep.
My very first memory is being bucked off of my horse,
Oh,
landing face first on a rock, and I was like 4 or 5 years old, and I had half of my front tooth chipped.
that actually
just
explains a
completely-
lot.
It does. It really does. And I'm half Polish, but that's neither
Wow.
here nor there. Yeah,
Wow. Let's go cultural right away.
exactly.
It's a good
Why
way to
not?
start potty
Why
mouth.
not? Well, I know we're going to talk about religion and politics here soon too.
That should be terrific.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so first memory, chipped half that tooth out, so I had to go
Yeah.
to the dentist and get the rest pulled out. And my mom actually made the dentist, who was a family friend,
Yeah.
actually make a denture for me because she didn't want me to have a missing tooth
Mhm.
for like school pictures and stuff. So I had a denture whenever the pictures came around from the time I was, I don't know, 4 or 5 until my adult tooth came in.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but otherwise it was out.
Yep, gone. Tooth was gone.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
my baby
awesome.
tooth.
That's awesome.
But so yes, my dad was a big dressage rider, actually,
Mhm.
and I'm probably going to mess this up because kids' memory when you're 45 years old is
Right.
a little bit off. But I told Peyton today he almost went to the Olympics for dressage
Wow.
back in the
Cool.
80s, so he was very, very deep into
Mm.
horses and dressage. I grew up, spent half my time on a horse farm.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I was thinking, that you had
But-
experience like that.
I do, but just like everything else that my dad wanted me to do when I was growing up, I didn't want to do it. I didn't like, we're going to talk about that, the rest of it here in a second. But when I was growing up, I did not want to ride horses. He wanted me to wrestle in high school. I didn't want to wrestle. I didn't want to do karate, which I did. All of these
Mhm.
things except for the wrestling, I did do a little bit, but I could never get into it like he was. Because,
Yep.
he's like a 3rd or 4th degree black belt in Kung Fu.
Mhm.
And he's, championship dressage rider, all these things, and I had no interest in it. And now Peyton has interest. She would like to do karate, but there's just not enough time in the day or money in the bank to be able to do that. But, she's doing the horseback riding, and now we've got her into dance again, and she's doing the stuff that she likes to do. But It's just funny that she is the one who's picking up on this, and she has the talent to go a long way with horseback riding. At least that's what her teacher says. And then my dad, I send videos all the time, and he's like, wow, she's got really good form.
I was going to say, I bet that's exciting for him to see that.
It is very exciting for him because he failed with me.
Clearly.
Clearly.
Well,
Both my parents are disappointed about that.
I've never heard of horseback wrestling. That was the part that
Horseback wrestling? Yeah,
yes.
It's a brand new sport invented here on PoddiMouths.
Up and coming, yes. Or horseback wrestling with karate.
On the back of exactly. You do the karate in the back of the trailer after you've ridden the horse while you were wrestling the horse.
Wow.
I don't know.
That sounds
We'll figure it out for you. And
let's not. No.
Okay.
No, let's not.
So to finish that story, now that I'm much older, because the other thing is I grew up in a small town, as did you, and all I ever wanted to do was live in the big city. I hated small towns. So for the last many years, I've lived in not huge cities. I've spent a lot of time in New York. I've spent a lot of time in Chicago, but never lived in either city. Spent a lot of time in Minneapolis and St. Paul. A lot of time I lived in the city in St. Louis. I lived in the city in Nashville. And I lived just outside the city in Atlanta. So I've had my city life.
Yep.
And now I'm at a certain age. I have kids or a kid. And all I want to do is move back to a small town, get a plot of land, get horses, and live on a farm the rest of my life. It's come full circle because I hate people. I hate the city. I don't hate the city, but I want to take it in small doses. We love our listeners and viewers. Love our listeners and our viewers.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to have high-speed internet no matter where I am.
Other people we hate, but not our listeners and viewers. Yes.
No, if you're in traffic, if you're pissing me off in the car in front of me, even if you are a listener, I hate you. But everyone else, you're cool. Unless you're cutting in line in front of me at a coffee shop, then I hate you.
That's the thing I still have the toughest time with, and that is being patient enough not to get angry at other drivers. And Lisa has made this clear to me more than once, that I just have a hard time with bad drivers who make bad decisions, and you're in the car, and so they can't hear you, and you could be, and it's not big things. It's usually little ones like people we've talked about this, people not taking off when the light turns green and just sitting there looking at their phones.
Yeah.
And I say, Lisa's heard me say this more than once. You have one job when you're first in line. One job. Take off when it turns green. And so I'm with you. It's the people-y stuff tends to be, the most difficult, but in person, I can get around it. Lisa's sisters are here visiting.
Yeah.
Jill and Susie, and Jill is actually a listener. She is
hi, Jill.
a PoddiMouths listener and viewer, probably not viewer, but listener, and that's good. And Susie too, I think sometimes as well. But it's
let me ask really quick. I want to ask one question because it just popped into my head.
Sure.
Was Jill, like your wife, born? I know they were born in North Dakota, but from Minnesota. Are they from Minnesota originally?
Yes, they're Minnesotans, I think. Okay. I would say originally, but they have since become Wisconsinites.
The only reason I say that is I've only known maybe a very small handful of people named Jill, and all of them are from Minnesota. I have never heard anyone else named Jill anywhere else that I've ever lived or been.
I'm guessing there probably are some.
I'm sure there are. I just think that's really funny that her name's Jill, and I've never met someone outside of Minnesota named Jill.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Okay, well, this streak is still going.
Yeah,
I guess for you.
That's why I asked. Okay, go on. I apologize for.
Strong. No, I have no idea where I was going with it, but they are visiting, and it's just been fun having them around. We went for breakfast brunch yesterday, and we were going to take them down by the beach, and thought, well, it'd be fun because they're from Wisconsin and it's 10 degrees there or whatever when they left. Warmer today, And we went to a place and we're not open for breakfast. No, we're open at 11. We ate here through 2 weeks ago or a month ago, and we had breakfast. Well, okay. So we went around the corner to a place. It was a food truck.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, Lisa had seen it. And I said, well, what the hell? We'll pull in and you order at the truck and they bring it to you. And it's awesome. And it's right on one of the harbors that you can sit.
Nice.
So the girls are, we're around the table and having a nice time and talking, and breeze blowing on us and sunshine. And it took a half an hour and we still didn't have our food.
At a food truck.
Yes. And so and there were probably 25 people around the area.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get mad about that stuff. So I just went up and said, hey, we're ticket number 14. And, she's okay, I'll check on it. And went and sat back down again. And she came over horrified. And I am so sorry. I don't know if it blew away or what happened, but we found it. I pulled up the ticket and we're working on it right now. We'll get it really fast. And then she got mimosas for the girls. Nice. And I was driving, so I, of course, had a Diet Coke. But it was fine. And we were enjoying the time, sitting there. I'm not going to get pissy face to face. But when I'm inside a vehicle, that's when I get pissy. So I'd like to change that. Not switch it around, but not get pissy at all.
Yes. So now PoddiMouths is turning into a psychoanalyzing podcast. But if I really boil it down, first of all, let's generalize is I don't dislike a person. I rarely dislike a person. Mm-hmm. I have met very few people in my life that I've disliked. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's very, very true. I try to find the best in everybody. Mm-hmm. People piss me off. A person is good. People piss me off. Funny. Now, part of what you're saying with the restaurant and things like that, it's not necessarily the people that exist, the real people that piss me off. Mm-hmm. It's knowing that restaurant has probably changed their hours because they can't find people to work.
Potentially. That
pisses me off. And that's a people thing, not a person thing.
Yeah.
That's a cultural thing. It's a time we live in. Why when we go to the grocery store, there are 10 aisles open and only one of them is operating and there's a long line? Because they can't find enough people to work.
I think I would say that's a generalization. And for some, it's possible that it's an issue. It's not the people, it's the management.
Yes and no.
There were 6 waiters, waitresses, cooks, and so on.
You're talking about your particular experience.
Well, let's talk about that in general, but it's around the corner from the place that couldn't open for breakfast anymore.
True.
And they were full for breakfast. So there were 6 people working, and they were all awesome. Even though they lost our order, they were friendly, polite, professional, and could not have been nicer after, the whole ordeal of, buying us a drink and I look, we're good, nice people, but it's way more management, and I'll back that up another way once you retort.
Well, my retort to that is I don't disagree that management plays, because, let's face it, when you quit a job, are you quitting the job or are you quitting your manager?
Usually the manager.
Period. You're usually quitting the manager.
Yep.
So when we look at it from that perspective, you're absolutely right. But let's look at it from a different perspective. Sure. Utilizing what we've seen over the last few years. What's the biggest difference between working at a food truck or even an area with a bunch of food trucks versus working at a brick and mortar restaurant? It's usually the hours.
Okay.
I'm just going to tell you, it's the hours. Okay. I'm going to put it in the context of where we've spent a lot of the bulk of our career, and that's the car business.
Sure.
When I worked in a store, I worked bell to bell. Mm-hmm. You worked in a store, I know you worked bell to bell. For my bell to bell, it was, depending on which store I worked at, it was usually 7 to 7. Yeah. So it's a 12-hour day. Mm-hmm. Maybe 11 or 10, depending on, again, the store that I worked in. But I usually worked bell to bell. Mm-hmm. And I usually work 6 days a week. It's a retail environment. That's what's expected. Dealers that I talk to now in my current role, one of their biggest frustrations, especially the folks that have a little bit of age on them, and have worked in that environment where they're bell to bell, they're like, I can't find people because they're not willing to work bell to bell. They're not even willing to work on a Saturday. Mm-hmm. Everyone said, I will work, 10 to 4 or 10 to 5 Monday through Friday, but that's it. That's all I'm working.
I think those people are still out there. The people who are willing
Oh, I'm
do it.
sure they're out there, but they're
So-
slowly going away because
I'm
we're
not
getting
sure
more.
they
of a-
are.
It's a
I just
cultural
think-
thing.
I think we're not as good at finding them as we should be. Most managers, and again, we'll just speak car business because that's our experience. Most managers are not good hirers.
I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
They're not good marketers when it comes to the job either.
But you know what? They might be good managers, or they might,
Maybe.
work a deal better than anybody. They might,
Sure.
and it's not a guarantee. But we don't teach people. You take we know our business. You take your top salesperson and make him or her a manager, and you go, gee, I wonder why they didn't do well as a manager. Well, let's see. First of all, you took his top or her top salesperson off the sales force.
Right.
That's the first thing you did.
Yep.
And then you didn't teach them to be a manager because
Right.
usually good salespeople are not good managers.
They're not good managers.
No,
Yeah,
and
you're
it's-
actually better taking someone who's so and making them a manager.
Well, as long as you don't piss off the top salesperson, and that's not everybody who works at a dealership or in any corporate setting is meant to be management personnel.
Correct.
And those folks, my best salespeople, as long as I would continue to stroke their ego and pay them well,
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to be managers. They
Right.
don't like the manager position. But
Right.
when you're young and new to the business, that's
Yep.
all you want. Manageritis sets in, and that's all you're focused on. So
to be fair, why and this is just my opinion. So if anyone who's listening in the car business,
hello everybody. Just so you know, PoddiMouths, it's always our opinion.
It's
Okay,
always
continue.
our opinion. My opinion though is, I don't think, and this goes to my hours thing as well, because people aren't necessarily looking for the work-life balance. They're working for the work-money balance.
I concur.
So they want to get as much money out of as little time as possible.
Well, especially young people.
Especially young
the older you
because
get, I think
they want a
in the
lifestyle.
business.
Yeah.
The older you get in the business, the more the balance comes into play. Don't
Right.
you think?
Well, and what I mean by that, folks, is they're not looking to capitalize on more money. They're looking to capitalize on, you're going to pay me this. Well, this is how much I'm going to work because I don't care about the money. I want to go out and you're going to pay me enough that I can go camping or I can go to all my favorite coffee shops. That's enough for me. That's what they're focusing on. Whereas people that have been in the business a long time or a little bit older, they're more motivated by money. So that said, what happens, what you were saying, newbie comes in, they look at that sales manager who's making $200,000-300,000 a year.
Yep.
And they're making 60 to 80. And they're like, that's just one step above. I want to be there. I want to make $300,000 a year.
So what I think happens there, and it's easy to say it's a cultural thing, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Right.
It's easy to blame something over which we have little control.
Yes.
And as an executive person in an organization, I'm never going to say, well, that's okay. Then you're right. We should just hang it up. No. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying because you're not. But I think some dealers do that.
Yes.
Some dealers say this is the hand we're dealt.
Yep.
And again, let's not just focus on car dealers. That's on any business. They say this is the hand we're dealt. We can't get anybody to work. Well, what are you paying them?
Exactly. That's my point. Exactly.
Well, what are we paying them? What's the culture like at your place of business?
Yep.
What are other rewards besides just the money?
Right.
Are there some other things that motivate these people? And do you know what they are?
Yeah. And most of them are going to say, no, they don't.
Yeah, you're right. It's true. I spoke with my mom this morning. And
Okay.
Mom,
Hi, Mom.
as you know, just in January turned 95.
Mhm.
And she is in a assisted living place.
Okay.
And let's just say it's not cheap.
Okay.
It's quite expensive. And since she has been there, and they raised the price first of the year, her monthly rate, which is again not low. And they said, well, things are going up and we can't get people and blah, blah, blah. We talked today about how the place is losing employees, and they can't keep kitchen help. They can't keep dining help. They can't keep maintenance people. She says there are maintenance people who often will come and fix things, or housekeeping people who will come and make her bed, who are serving in the dining room because people are leaving. I said, well, so She said, I don't know what's wrong with this, why they can't keep them. She said they're paying like $15 an hour is all for some of these folk, 12 to 15.
Okay.
And these people can't live on that or whatever. And that could be a sob story that she heard from an employee, of course.
Sure.
They're certainly open to believing what people tell them. But the truth is they are not able, for whatever reason, to keep people at this facility. And it's the same thing. If you don't point back to management and say, okay, who's in charge of this? Why is this happening? Are you holding them accountable? And more importantly, have you trained this person or these people to be effective at what they're doing?
Yeah.
And so until you check all those boxes, you can't say, well, it's the employee's fault. Is it?
Yeah.
And even if it is that good enough if you're the owner?
Yeah,
no.
It's rarely the employee's fault necessarily. I mean, obviously you're going to have bad apples whenever you're going to hire. You will pick the wrong person. Sometimes, but but even with that, sometimes it might just be the role. It might not be the person. But you're absolutely right. You hire people, and then you expect them to do a job, but you can't expect them to know everything that you know. And you can't expect them to step into that role and just do it. You have to train them. You have to hold them accountable, and you have you can't be. I had a boss once, and I worked there. It was not a very high paying job at all. And so that wasn't a factor, but I was miserable, and I only worked there about 9 months. Because he would just go off on employees, just go off. And this is not even in the car business. And,
most
yelling
people don't
and screaming.
understand. This is, you were a male stripper, and I think you might as well admit that.
And it stole our tips all the time, right out of our G-strings. No, but seriously, it made for a very uncomfortable environment, and that's why I only stayed there for. It was a fantastic job. I loved what we did, but it wasn't worth staying because it was a bad environment. And I felt, and I still know people that work there, and they all said I was a very good worker. I was very young, but I was very good. So it wasn't like I was poor at my job, but it was not an environment I wanted to be in.
We all want anybody who's an ambitious young person. Yeah. And honestly, I'll train people. I'm happy to, because the training stuff is easy. When you find somebody who is enthusiastic and ambitious and will do what you tell him or her to do, that's a gold mine for anybody.
Absolutely.
If you have processes in place to make the most of that. Because there's nothing more distressing than having somebody like that and they get jaded because of how they were treated or mismanaged or untrained or whatever, unrealistic expectations, because we didn't lay them out for them. We didn't hold them accountable, and we didn't follow up with them and let them know, hey, you're doing great. Hey, try working on this, whatever. I'll meet back with you next week at this time. Like that.
Exactly. So I don't know how we went from coffee. I mean, I shouldn't ever ask, but I don't know how we went from coffee to, the suckage of people. That's the name that's one of the titles, the suckage of people.
You know that it's very easy for us to go from one thing to the other.
It is.
Quite simply.
It's like we go down rabbit holes. It's like what the whole podcast is. Maybe we should have built the whole podcast on, everything and nothing at all.
People don't.
Or the suckage of people.
People don't know that the second choice for PoddiMouths was going to be Scatterbrains. That was, the Scatterbrain podcast.
Well, that could be our future podcast. Once we have too many people that are listening to this one, we have to diversify.
We're getting so close to that. Yeah,
so close. So you're drinking caffeinated coffee. Do you put anything in your coffee?
It's interesting you say that. So I did an espresso today because it was quick. I love pour overs like you do. Especially since you turned me on to that Montana coffee.
Isn't that great? Yeah, I need to order some more.
Oh my gosh. I got a 5-pounder. And so I did. And I put it in Ziplocs, and I just opened. Oh,
nice.
So I like doing the grinding. But that to me is having a quick coffee like that is great. But so I did it. And instead of that, did an espresso, and I put salt in it today.
Nice.
Just
the Himalayan sea salt, or just
I have that, but no, I just use some. I think it was just the sea salt.
Okay.
Regular
Nice.
sea salt. Yeah. But
And
anyway,
it made it stand out a little bit.
A little bit
it?
more.
Good.
A little bit more. Just a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
You do that sometimes too, don't you?
I
Salt
do.
And...
Yep.
Mhm.
Today though, I'm drinking decaf. It's Seattle's best. It's not the best, but it's I like having decaf because I like coffee and I like drinking coffee all day. But if I drink caffeinated coffee past a certain time, I'm not sleeping.
At least it's the same way. Yep.
I can't, but I do love coffee. So we do usually have some decaf laying around. I did do a pour over, but this time I added cinnamon, turmeric, and a little bit of vanilla extract.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's really good.
Turmeric is an interesting add because it has kind of a distinctive taste.
It does, but the cinnamon and the coffee flavor tends to balance it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
I definitely flavor my decaf because the decaf especially after you've had a really good cup of caffeinated coffee, the decaf does not even get close to the flavor of regular coffee. So
do you I was going to ask something. Boy, I am just like spacey today.
Not enough coffee.
Oh, no, I think plenty. I'm talking fast. I'm just not remembering well. Do you ever put cream in your coffee? Cream and sweetener?
Sometimes, very rarely. I normally drink my coffee black. I would say the closest I get is when I make myself a bulletproof, which is some really good. Not always. I don't always have the grass-fed Irish butter to put in there, but any butter will work for that sort of thing. And then if some really good coconut oil, some MCT oil, and so that's probably the closest I usually get. But once in a while, I do have a hankering for a little bit of cream and sugar. If I'm looking for something a little special, I call that my specialty drink. I especially do that. One of my favorite coffees. People are going to think I'm so weird. One of my favorite coffees is Waffle House. Yeah, Waffle House coffee.
Oh, okay.
Only though when there's cream and sugar in it. I don't drink that black. Yeah, very close. Comparison for home use is chock full of nuts. I like making myself some chock full of nuts, and then I put sugar and cream in it.
Okay, I try to avoid sugar because dang. But when I do want something sweetened, I'll use a monk fruit sweetener, which is
nice,
very tasty, pretty tasty. But then cream, I'll do that usually my second or third cup of the day, and that's usually mid morning or late morning or something like that, and just for something different. So that, and or if it's a Starbucks, I'll do cream and whatever the not equal, but something like that.
Sure.
One of their other sweeteners. But yeah, you just switch it up a little bit. That's, the difference.
Sometimes you just have to. I mean, if you drink the same thing over and over again, then it's just it's not as much fun. I know people might say that I'm weird by saying that because like Jennifer doesn't care what the coffee tastes like necessarily. I mean, she likes the bold coffee, but she has to have coffee. She's so addicted to the caffeine. It's not about the taste for her. For me, it's it's about the taste. It's taking your time. I'm really disappointed when I get new coffee and it doesn't flour when I put it in the pour over. That bothers me.
Of course it does. Does she recognize the difference when you make her a delicious cup, or does she just go, no, it's caffeine and hammers it?
It's pretty much caffeine and hammers it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, if she does, she doesn't tell me. And I have asked, and I've annoyed her by asking so much. So
probably best not to.
No, I really should stop doing that.
Funny.
But the coffee itself, getting the mixture, mixing things in is sometimes a lot of fun. I don't always use sugar. I've been using sugar lately because I don't use a lot of it, but I do like the flavor, what the sugar does to the coffee. But we also have honey. We also have agave nectar. We've tried all of those things, and the honey to me is good, but it gives a little bit of a tang in the back of your throat. And that is not pleasing to me. The aftertaste is not as good.
To make it sweet enough, and this is my problem with sugar, my real problem with sugar is to make it sweet enough, I have to put in just a boatload.
Yeah.
Because, I used to do equal all the time,
Sure.
and, with cream. But it was, 2 packets of equal on a venti Starbucks was plenty sweet. But you got to do like 4 or 5 big honking tablespoons of sugar to get that same level of fake sweetness or real sweetness.
What do you think of Vietnamese and or Cuban coffee?
I'm a huge fan of Cuban coffee, and I have not had it for some time. Vietnamese, I'm not familiar with. Cuban coffee, I had when we were years ago doing some training at a dealer group in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you want Cuban coffee, that's where you go for it, other than Cuba.
Absolutely.
Because they just load it up with milk and all kinds of sugar. And it is the most delicious and
what
really
kind of
hardcore coffee is.
What kind of milk and what kind of sugar, though?
Well, I don't know. I didn't see them making them.
It's sweetened condensed milk.
Cut it out, really?
It's sweetened condensed milk.
Well, that explains it. That's what my grandma used to drink.
Really?
In her coffee it was like half coffee and half sweetened condensed milk every day.
Oh, and it's phenomenal. It is. That's what makes it. So the Cuban coffee is obviously made with specific types of beans, and I don't know if it's from Cuba. I'm assuming because it's the right climate, I guess. Yeah. So they probably have Cuban coffee beans.
Sure.
And then it's made with sweetened condensed milk. Mm-hmm. Vietnamese coffee is very similar. It's made, though, it can be made with Vietnamese coffee, which is probably the best. Mm. I've never had true Vietnamese coffee that I am aware of. Mm-hmm. A lot of what they use is French coffee. Okay. Mostly I've seen a lot of the coffee you see in New Orleans used in the Vietnamese coffee. And what they do is they'll put the sweetened condensed milk at the bottom of the cup, and it's usually just a rocks glass. Mm-hmm. And then they have their own coffee maker on the top. It's kind of like a pour over, but it's a little bit slower. Mm-hmm. They'll put it in, and it's usually espresso. It's a espresso ground. Mm-hmm. They'll put the water in, let it drip. They'll mix it once the coffee is full, and it's a certain. I don't know what the ratio is, mm-hmm. but it's a certain ratio, and then they pour that over ice. And that's Vietnamese coffee.
Wow. And
so good.
No sugar along with the sweetened condensed milk?
Nope.
No additional sugar?
Nope. Just sweetened condensed milk. It's two ingredients.
Yeah.
And 3 if you count water.
Which you should probably count. It would not be as good without it.
Right.
I can't fathom that, although I'd like to. On the other hand, I'm missing a sweet rolls. Cinnamon rolls. Oh, yeah. That was on my mind today. And I haven't had one in a long time. Because, damn it, they're good. I should do this every day. What's wrong with me? Because they're freaking amazing if you find the right recipe.
Yeah. For lunch today, or snack lunch before I came up here to do the podcast, mm-hmm. I just wanted something, and nothing was really appealing to me. I didn't want a salad, even though I should. Mm-hmm. So I just pulled out some Ritz crackers and did one side was bad for you peanut butter, not the good stuff, not natural. It's, the sugar laden stuff. And then on the other side was Nutella. Squish them together.
Which suddenly makes the peanut butter healthier.
Exactly.
By comparison.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, that's delicious.
Really wanted some Nutella, and we cracked it open yesterday. I'm like, now it's time. So I understand the sweet tooth thing. We actually, Peyton was actually giving me a hard time because I bought a huge bag of gummy bears, and I would eat, a handful of gummy bears for dessert. And Peyton's like, "Why do you eat so much candy?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't usually," and this is during the week, and I'm like, I don't usually have any cocktails. So I'm honest with her, she knows all about it. I don't usually drink during the week. And it's, when you're busy and you need to do things, sometimes you've got to replace one vice with another. And candy happens to be my other vice. So if I don't have a drink, I will likely have candy.
If you were in Switzerland, they'd call it an Edelweiss. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All I think is the song.
So it's an Edelweiss, which would be Swiss candy.
Swiss candy. It's German.
Vice.
It's Haribo.
Oh, God. Well, you remember those stories, and we had that funny talk about especially the sugar-free Haribo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My gosh. Well, stories, you can find them on, certainly do a search for them. I don't remember where we saw them on YouTube or something, but some of these people with, let's just say, rocket fuel that emanated after they ate the sugar-free Haribo. which is pretty impressive.
Man,
Pretty
yeah,
impressive.
it is
And
very impressive.
that happens to anything sugar free that uses like xylitol.
Mm-hmm.
Don't overdo it.
Don't overdo it.
Don't
No.
overdo it because you will
There's
pay
a lot
the
of
price.
things you shouldn't overdo. Now, if you're having difficulty, maybe you should overdo it.
Oh
Just
gosh.
saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's the best way to do it. I think you may want to, unless you have a colonoscopy coming up tomorrow or something like that. Then.
Yeah.
So colonoscopy. Have you done one yet?
I have not. It's funny. I was just thinking. I was going to say out loud on this podcast that I haven't. No, it's now. I need to do one.
Yeah, you should. And I'll tell you, and I've probably told you before, it's not a big deal. People make it to be, it's so disgusting. It's a blah, blah, blah. I've had three or four. Three, I think I've had. The first time they found polyps that they had to remove, and they were concerned about them. And then 5 years later, they had me do another one and clean and clear. So
good,
awesome stuff. But they, it's so easy though to do. You get the best nap ever.
Yeah, that's what I've been told too.
Because they give you fentanyl or something like that to put you. And you wake up and like, that was a great nap. And
I'm not afraid of it. It's not a fear thing. It's really just my biggest problem. And people, I am a bad human being. I don't have okay. So, that dentist I was telling you about when I was 4 or 5 years old with the tooth, he was my dentist until I was 22 years old.
Okay.
In a small town in Minnesota, I was in college for 4 years in St. Louis and still flying up to see him twice a year to get my dentist appointment done. So I was very loyal to doctors and dentists. I haven't, he actually unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago now. But I did have another dentist that I went to see. I will go see a dentist when I need to go see a dentist, but I don't have a specific dentist. Same goes with a doctor. I found a doctor I liked here in Nashville. And then she and her husband, who was also a doctor, ended up taking a practice somewhere else and moving. Oh. And it wasn't in Tennessee. So she was gone. Now I don't have a doctor. I haven't had a doctor now here in Nashville for 13 years. Now I'll go to a doctor at a clinic if I need something, like when I cut my hand or something. Yeah. But I don't have a general practitioner. I'm horrible with stuff like that.
Yeah, there's that thing called preventative medicine.
I know. I'm horrible at
preventive, which is right. Preventative or preventive?
I've heard it both ways. I don't know.
Me too. Yeah, me either.
You're the grammarian.
Well, I know I am, but I you hear it one way long enough, it should be preventive, and then you hear some preventative. And you go, is that right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Irregardless, though.
Regardless,
which I hate.
Right.
But it's in the dictionary now.
It is.
Irregardless.
So when I was growing up, I always heard ain't a word. Ain't nice a word. It ain't nice to say. Yeah, and people would get on you because it's not in the dictionary. Well, now it's in the dictionary.
I know, and that's the part where you go, oh well, we want everyone to be sort of right, so we'll just put it in.
It's all we're being inclusive again.
Yeah, colloquial.
So here's the politics side of things. Another one, one that really grates on me, and it's usually Minnesota and Wisconsin that I hear it the most, because I started following this guy on YouTube who owns a Jeep modifying company in Wisconsin.
Cool.
And he was walking through giving a video tour of his new shop, and he was saying, "Yeah, we seen it on this and we seen it on that." And I'm like, "No, you saw it.
Yes,
you saw it.
Yeah,
everything else was fine, but every single time he would go, well, I seen it there." I'm like, "No, you saw it there."
I know.
And I'm not even a grammarian.
You're becoming one. I'm rubbing off on you.
That was no, seriously. That was always, even when I was a kid, that word was always my pet peeve. I would correct my friends all the time.
Yeah, my sister and I have.
That's why they're not my friends, by the way, anymore.
My sister and I have spoken about this. Well, and I guess my whole family, my brothers too. We can't necessarily quote the grammar rule, but because my mother was a teacher and was always very careful in what she allowed us to say and how she said things too, because your kids pay attention to you.
Absolutely.
We know what's right, what sounds right and what sounds wrong. And, without quoting what's the rule on that? Well, it's the less and fewer, and it's the further, farther. It's those words that people mess up, 12 items or fewer. Yes, that's actually what it should be. But
right.
Grocery stores say 12 items or less.
Well, that's a, fitting on the sign thing.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That's why they do it, but it doesn't make it right. And then
Correct.
People saying, there's a couple of things I need to talk to you about. You mean there are a couple of things I need to talk to you about? Drives me crazy because it's a number agreement thing. And so there are those little things like that you kind of go, well, I know it's wrong, but I can't tell you, it's a
right.
participle modifier that has to come in with singularity. And I don't know.
Now, my boss, who used to be an English teacher,
right,
could tell us those things.
Yes, he could. And he's welcome to do that. But the cool part about it is if it sounds right, I'm pretty comfortable that it's the right way, to do it or say it.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
it is amazing what grates on you though, and some of those words. It's kind of like I can hear myself right now saying so drives me absolutely nuts that I even say that. And we have other people. I have been in the past on calls, and some of these people no longer are in our fold, but I've listened to people who their favorite word to fill instead of is right. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, it drives me crazy.
Oh. So we had this text chain where every time someone picked up on it, we'd send an emoji beer.
Good.
We would have text messages that were like 6 pages long with just beers.
Gosh. Oh man. Because that's a part. It's people need to. Okay, people. If you're listening to us, thank you. If you're watching us, thank you. Sorry though. But you have to call that stuff out. Listen to yourself.
Absolutely.
If you tape yourself out, and I'll tell you, we've both done it. It's painful when you watch yourself for the first time and you go, "Oh my gosh, look at I do this, and listen to what you say." If you are repeating words, if you're repeating right, or so, people ask a question. And gosh, that was the thing that you and I heard the most of in our work was someone would say, so how does this work? And the first word out of their mouths would be, so there's no so. How does it work?
Yeah.
Well, here's
it
what
works
happens.
like this.
It's well could be a way to, or duh.
My feedback is usually
That's fine. That's really nice, actually. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I don't know how to spell that, so you can't mark it wrong. Anyway,
I like that.
Listen to yourself.
And you're going to get sick of it too, because just like me sitting here going, I'm going to listen to this podcast now back and see how many times I said the word so. And the problem is I can hear it and I just can't.
I'm guilty of it.
Our next conversation, I won't say it at all. This conversation, I'll probably say it another 10 times.
Because you'll focus on it. And that's the difference. Yeah.
Yep.
That's the difference. Cool. On that note,
have we solved the world's problems?
I think we have. We're 43 minutes in. That was pretty good. I think we're
good. And most of the world's now finishing my coffee.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well played. I just have salt at the bottom of mine because some idiot put salt in it.
Some idiot put salt and didn't stir it.
Oh, I stirred it too. Yeah.
So when you put salt in it, did you literally put the salt in the coffee, or did you?
Yeah.
No, because you didn't do a pour over.
No, I just did an espresso. I really didn't have a choice.
Yeah, you didn't. When I do a pour over, when I put salt in, I usually do it in a pour over and put it on the grounds, and then
I would do that too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So at least we're on the same page about that.
We are. So.
See, now, but that was a better way to use it.
At least it's a transition.
Exactly. Yeah, I wasn't transitioning those other times. I was thinking. It wasn't. It was my It was my
Yes.
So.
And look, this is. We are not perfectionists at this. So if you say, "Oh, well, we heard you say
not
right 5 times,"
right,
like that. it's fine. But man, when you hear somebody using it too much, it's so obvious.
That's the key right there.
Yeah.
When you're using it way too much.
As a crutch.
I recognize that it's not something you necessarily have control over. You probably don't know you're doing it. But
until you make it conscious.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like so.
Yeah.
And as John said, on that note,
on that note,
folks, head up to PoddiMouths.com, check out all of the merch in the merch store, check out all of our past visitors or guests who have their own thing going on. And we hope that you have a great week, and we'll see you again here. Same potty day,
hey,
same
it's potty
channel.
time. That's a new
same
t-shirt.
Potty time, same potty channel.
I can see potty time.
Potty
That
time.
might be a good t-shirt.
Going up in the, yes, it is. Yeah.
Go to the merch store.
Now, should it say though, potty time ... or should it just say potty time?
Potty time exclamation point.
Okay. Potty time exclamation. That'll be up in the store before this episode.
Look how smart you are. You're a genius.
It's up there now, folks. It's up there right now.
Yeah, baby.
All right, folks. We'll see you next week.
See ya.